Inside these steel aisles sits the physical manifestation of enterprise risk. Millions of dollars in hardware, routing proprietary data every fraction of a second. Keeping this system alive requires security operations, or SecOps. It is a continuous life cycle of defending, analyzing, and recovering the network. Architecture, access control, forensics, and recovery fail if they operate in silos. They have to interlock to absorb a targeted crisis. We are going to trace a cyber incident from bare metal architecture to forensic recovery to see exactly how these SecOps principles are applied in a live enterprise. Before any attack occurs, the infrastructure must be built with baseline fault tolerance. This diagram shows the standard flow of enterprise traffic. Data moves from the external internet, through load balancers, down to the web servers, and finally to the database layer. At the perimeter, the load balancer intercepts incoming traffic and distributes it evenly across Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. This provides network-level redundancy. If one web server fails, the balancer immediately reroutes traffic to the others. Web servers are stateless. The database servers, DB1 and DB2, store the actual stateful records. To keep that data available, database fault tolerance requires hardware-level redundancy. Array duplication or stripes the data across multiple physical disks so a single drive failure doesn't destroy the entire database. Redundancy at the compute layer is functionally useless for availability if it is not mirrored by fault tolerance at the storage layer. Hardware architecture is only one boundary. The system must also survive the humans managing it. By default, every new user account is provisioned with no access. This enforces the principle of least privilege, granting users only the specific permissions required to do their jobs. This matrix maps administrative roles against potential areas of conflict to prevent single points of human failure. Notice the intersection here. The matrix strictly forbids the security administrator from deploying patches. This restriction enforces separation of duties and two-person control. Critical processes are divided, so no single individual can execute a sensitive action end-to-end. The individual responsible for verifying the security of a patch can never be the same individual who deploys that code. If they were, a compromised administrator could push malicious code and then sign off on their own security check. An access control matrix is a rigid architectural constraint designed specifically to contain the blast radius of an insider threat. When a massive external attack hits, even those resilient servers and strict access controls can still be entirely overwhelmed. This diagram illustrates intercepted network traffic during a breach. We see a TCP SYN and SYN ACK packet exchange between an attacker and a victim server. Unlike a standard ping flood that simply clogs bandwidth, this is a TCP SYN flood. The attacker sends a rapid sequence of SYN requests. The server replies with SYN ACKs, but the attacker intentionally never sends the final ACK. These half-open connections stay pending. The victim server reserves memory for each one until its state tables are completely exhausted, causing the system to crash. With the servers compromised and offline, active defense ends. The systems must be isolated to begin formal incident response and investigation. Investigators connect a hardware write blocker to the affected storage drives. This is a legally required tool for collecting digital evidence from the systems. The write blocker intercepts and discards any write commands sent to the storage device. It guarantees that the read process does not modify a single bit of the original data. Forensic integrity must be perfectly maintained via hardware tools. If the data is altered during collection, the digital evidence is no longer considered competently acquired, rendering it legally inadmissible in a court of law. With the system down and evidence preserved, the organization pivots entirely to disaster recovery operations. System recovery is governed by two constraints. The maximum tolerable downtime, or MTD, is the absolute time limit before the business suffers catastrophic damage. The recovery time objective, or RTO, is the target time set by IT to get systems back online before reaching that MTD limit. Surviving the outage also requires meeting the recovery point objective, the maximum acceptable amount of data loss. Hitting the RPO relies entirely on executing a strict backup rotation schedule. This log shows file modifications, detailing timestamps from Monday to Wednesday morning. We use this to calculate the exact payload needed for restoration. Our schedule dictates a full backup on Monday at 9 p.m., followed by differential backups on subsequent days at 9 p.m. A differential backup captures all changes made to the system since the last full backup. Any file created or modified after Monday at 9 p.m. qualifies. Looking at the chronological data, we isolate the modifications to File 1, File 2, File 5, File 3, and File 6. Exactly 5 files will be copied into Wednesday's differential backup to meet the RPO. Disaster recovery relies on rigid, verifiable mathematical schedules to guarantee business continuity. Tracing this lifecycle reveals how these disparate concepts interlock to form a single defensive mechanism. Hardware fault tolerance and strict separation of duties contain the initial blast radius of an incident. Forensic write blockers and differential backup logic ensure institutional survival and legal compliance after the breach occurs. Security operations treats a crisis as an engineering certainty. It embeds the logic of systematic survival directly into the hardware, the access matrix, and the recovery schedule.